and give us a little bit of an overview, your personal life, you as a career woman, and tell us how and what makes you so dang awesome.
Did that work?
Yes, that worked.
Hi, Leka. So you are one of my favorite people. Thank you so much for having me on. And I don't know that I'm awesome, but what makes me unique is that I'm involved in the leading and operating of 13 different entities, which is a lot. So I've learned how to become very productive and how to lead. You have to learn how to become a good leader in that situation. And I love that a lot of the listeners here, a lot of the viewers here are investors, and that you're an investor. I feel like I have a lot to learn from you guys. I can't wait to hear what Ashley has to say about getting females involved. I'm super excited to hear her coming up. So I'm a wife and mother. I have 3 great kids. We live in Kirkland, Washington. I only own 2 doors. And we are actively working on that. Working on our 3rd is going to be most likely in Austin, Texas, and then we're house hacking essentially. Well, kind of. The house we're living in now is a duplex that we converted into a single family, and then we'll hold that, and then we'll move on to our next residence here in the next few years. So we're working on our portfolio, right? Over the next 10 years, I'd like to have 10 doors in 10 years. We'll see if it goes that fast. I don't know.
That's so awesome. Well, you're killing it. You're starting out. And that's the most exciting part,
Thank you.
Yeah, this journey, like when you first get started out, you just have so much to learn. But then once you get there, it's like the momentum just keeps you going.
Yeah, for sure. The one rental we've had for 12 years now. So we've had it a long time. And so
wow.
You do get used to, the landlord thing. It's not intimidating anymore at all. So
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I have my friend Heather here from Waltz Property, and her company, they manage 800 doors in the core, like downtown Seattle neighborhoods. So not daunting at all.
God, my husband's in property management. He's up to 17 doors that he manages. And I don't know why he's got 2 HOAs, which to me, just not, you are special. All of you guys who are watching who manage HOAs are special, because that just,
yeah,
crazy. Yeah.
It's not for everybody, for sure.
Yeah.
Let's bring on Ashley. Ashley, are you here?
Yes, I'm here
there you
too.
Go. Awesome. Hi. Can you introduce yourself to our amazing audience?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me on. I am Ashley Wilson. I'm right outside of Philadelphia, just like Leka said. I've been investing in real estate for the past 10 years. I've done everything from house hacking to short-term, long-term rentals, high-end flipping, and most recently in the past couple of years, I've gotten into large multifamily properties. So I have properties all over the country, and I do asset and construction management on those properties in conjunction with I still have my flipping business that I do in the suburbs of Philadelphia.
Amazing. I know, Ashley, you have 2 beautiful little girls. How is mom life going?
Well, it is definitely a little bit challenging during this period of time with the stay-at-home order. We actually were lifted today officially. So that
congrats. Wow.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you. I feel like things are overdue for change. So I'm really happy about that. To be honest with you, I've really enjoyed spending this extra time with my children. I hope that people aren't like, it's so frustrating she's saying that. I'm pulling my hair out. Definitely I've been pulling my hair out as well at times too. It's challenging to have to, we already work full-time from home. Both my husband and I are full-time real estate investors. So we both already work full-time from home. So it wasn't a change in that routine, but in terms of balancing your family, and my children can no longer go to school and there's no daycare situation, we've had to definitely balance who's taking care of the children versus who is keeping the business afloat. And I've been the one tasked with the business, and he's been the best dad ever and just crushing it with these girls. So really blessed to have him be such a supportive person to help me, achieve the things that we're able to achieve for our family.
That's amazing.
Thank
so
you.
Great to hear. Love Kyle.
Love Kyle.
Love Kyle. Hey, so let's go to Vija for a few minutes. I have some questions for you, Vija, and then we'll come back to Ashley. All right. Vija, where do we begin? You are such a dynamic person. And since I've met you, the one thing that I know about you is anything that you put your mind to, you can literally conquer. So given that, like, what was your draw to real estate?
Yeah, thank you. And I actually believe that anybody can conquer anything as long as they don't quit. So I don't know that my superpower is probably more that I don't quit, not that I'm extraordinarily talented in any area, because I'm really not, except for I have really good grit. I'm a second generation realtor. So my dad started a company called Team Builder, and he's since sold it to my brother, Paul, who operates it, and they're actually affiliated with the same brokerage I'm affiliated with now, Keller Williams. So I've been working in real estate since I was probably 10 years old. I remember in high school, I don't think I said this on any public thing, but I remember in high school, every summer and every day after school, when I got my driver's license, I would go drive to one of his real estate offices and work. In fact, he used to property manage some downtown Seattle buildings, big commercial high rises.
Wow.
One of them was the Bay Vista Tower. And so all through my senior year of high school, I would go work at the Bay Vista Tower. So, I mean, it was probably inevitable that I was going to go in real estate, although like I would have vowed I wasn't going to go in real estate. You know how life is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a wonderful career. I'm a really big advocate of real estate as a career.
That's awesome. We can see that. So I know that you went from doing so you started in 2000, right? In the year 2000 or
it was about 2002.
Yeah. 2002. Yeah. Okay. Wow. 18 years you've been at this.
Yeah.
Amazing. So when you started or in the beginning of your career and you did 7 to 8 million in volume, but then you quickly ramped up and started doing 70 million in volume. Tell me if I have the numbers wrong. But basically, I know that you just crushed it. So what made you, what were the fundamentals that helped achieve that?
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting. When I started in real estate, I was an individual agent at a local brokerage here called John L. Scott in Seattle. They're local to just Seattle and I think maybe Oregon, I'm not sure. And that's what I knew. Back in 2002, if teams existed, I didn't know about it, right? So from 2002 to 2010, I was at John L. Scott and I just kind of tucked my head down and worked. I actually don't know my numbers from back in the day because I didn't really track them back then. It just wasn't something that was woven into the culture of the brokerage I was in. I just wasn't aware. Now that I'm so numbers oriented and so data oriented, I can retrace back and kind of guess based on my income that I did anywhere from 7 to 14 million a year in volume, right? In my top peak year, I probably did 12 to 14 million. But I came to Keller Williams in 2010, and I don't know if you all remember 2009 and 10, but it was not pretty. I mean, it was pretty for an investor, wasn't pretty for me, because my husband and I were both in real estate at the time, and we were greatly affected. I mean, our income just plummeted. We were largely affected. So when I came to Keller Williams, it was December of 2010. So really 2011, I just tucked in. It was just if Leka, I would go do an open house and I would look at my mortgage, because back then we still had paper. We would get, it wasn't electronic, and I would look at it and go, we're 4 months behind, we're going to get an NOD. And so I would go to an open house and I would go, someone is going to get sold a house today because I have to pay my mortgage. And I would just be like, you. And I would find someone. And I remember the quickest one I did was I put a property in contract within 24 hours of an open house. And that was, by the way, that was in 2009 and 10. I mean, if you remember back then, that was not easy. So I came to Keller Williams, and I remember I started tracking my numbers, and that first year, like I did 9.6 million in volume, which was a really good year for 2011. That was in 2011.
Wow.
And it was good. I caught up on my house payments, and we've since sold that house, but like, everything was fine. Like we didn't, it was good. And then rolling into 2012, I decided that I was going to start a team. I kind of entered the year and went to a big Keller Williams event, and just my world just exploded because I just didn't know what I didn't know before that. And I just had no idea that there was teams that existed that sold hundreds of teams a year, or hundreds of units a year. I know that sounds dumb. Like, I know when I say that, you're like, what do you mean that didn't exist? How can you not know that? I'm telling you, I didn't know. The only thing I knew, I was at a small local company. They weren't international. They weren't even national. Mm-hmm. And I just thought, like, the epitome of real estate, I thought I was kind of destined to this life of, selling homes at someone's kitchen table. And there's nothing wrong with that. It wasn't for me. So when I saw these people on stage at this event, it literally shook my world. It did. I couldn't sleep. I freaked out in a good way, in the best of ways. So I walked into that year. I got on a plane and went to, I remember, 10 trips that year. I went on 10 plane trips, and I didn't have a lot of money still back then. And so I was like using frequent flyer miles and everything.
Wow.
And I flew all around to take classes because, what I knew is I was a really good real estate agent, and I didn't know anything about owning a business. I didn't know how to hire people. I just didn't know anything. So I just learned a lot that year. Right. And I really, really failed forward. And then maybe that was the year I did 9.6 million. I think it was 2012, because entering 2013, I started coaching with Ben Kinney, who, fast forward, he's who I work for now. So Ben bought my franchise. He bought our Keller Williams Kirkland office in August of 2012. And, what a lot of people don't know about that time is that my husband was undergoing cancer treatment. So Ben, my husband, he was, he'd just finished radiation. And, at the time our boys were really young. I didn't have my daughter yet. I did have my daughter, excuse me. She was a baby. Was that right? Yeah. She was a baby. So she was a toddler. She was just a toddler by then. And it was a dark time of my life. And on top of it all, my franchise gets purchased. I don't know this guy from Adam, and he purchases my franchise, and we get kicked out of our office, and we have to move office buildings. Right. So I met Ben, and a couple months later, Ben offered to coach me. And I took him up on that. And that's when it started. The trajectory was crazy. So entering 2013, I went from 9.6 million. It was 2012. From that to 25 million in volume the next year, coaching with Ben. And then 2014, it went like something like this. It went 25 million, 37 million, 48 million, 69 million.
Wow.
In 4 years. So it was like 700% increase in 4 years. It was really fast and crazy. It was crazy 4 years of my life. So that's what happened.
That is such an achievement. Even just looking back at it, that's just incredible.
Yeah. Only 2% of women-owned businesses have gross revenue over $1 million. So at the peak, we did our $69 million volume. It was 70 million. It was 69.9 or something. That year was in, I think that was 2016 or 2017. I'd have to do the math. We did almost 1.8 million in GCI. And so it was a proud moment for sure. Yeah.
Oh my God. That is a moment.
That's awesome. It was a moment.
But thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, my pleasure.
For those of you that are just starting out, especially, like, things like this they're possible,
Yeah. Oh, for sure. You guys can get anywhere where you want to get in 5 years, and that includes with investments. It doesn't matter what we're talking about. 5 years can get you anything. When you talk about net worth, most of my friends who are multimillionaires, net worth millionaires, and by the way, every single one of my friends who I'm close with, who's a net worth millionaire, has a large real estate portfolio. And if it's not based on real estate investments, that's a large part of it. All of them did it in a decade. They all did it in 10 years. And so that is so encouraging to me, because I'm starting a little late in my life on this little journey. I'm so excited about what I'm going to do to my portfolio, my net worth in the next 10 years. So we can really get most places in 5. And we can, all of us here can build a high net worth in 10 years, all of us.
Yep. Yeah. We're already on the right track. You're watching our real estate webinar. You're there.
That's right.
You're on the path. Okay. So, right now we're facing so much adversity. People just want to give up. So looking back at your career, was there an incident that kind of shaped you into the person that you are today? Like an incident that you walked away from feeling like, wow, that was so tough, but I can turn this around.
Yeah, for sure. I've had a couple pivotal moments in my career. The most public one happened when I essentially lost 85% of my team. 85% of my team left in a period of 4 months. And that event started by my lead listing specialist at the time, giving her notice and handing me listing cancellation forms for all of our listings. So about $10 million in listing inventory. She had gone to each individual seller and said, I'm leaving the Vija group and I want to take your listing with me. And within 4 months, I turned over almost my entire team, and it was devastating after that big growth. Yeah. Best thing that ever happened to me, which of course we don't say in the moment, because those are tough moments when you put your all into something. But the lessons, there's a lot of lessons. The first lesson is I immediately knew that was it. It was my fault. It wasn't all the people's fault that left. It was my fault. And the first lesson is asking yourself what your DNA is in any situation, and completely owning and taking accountability for your stuff, right? So I did that, and I think that it turned me into the person that I am now. Ben Kinney jokingly calls, there's Vija 1.0 and now there's Vija 2.0, and there wouldn't be a Vija 2.0 if I hadn't have gone through that. I think that there's an argument that, in fact, I know that set off the chain of events that actually got me into the position I am in now, which is the director of growth for the Ben Kinney companies. And I'm the happiest, most fulfilled I have ever been in my career, ever. So, there's a reason for it all. It's not always fun in the process, but that was a pivotal event for me.
That's incredible. I mean, I know how many new brokers and OG brokers, that you inspire and you motivate. And so that is just like, it's amazing, that you were able to go through that to, like, if I look at you now, everything that you have going for you, I mean, kudos.
Thank you. Yeah. Life's not easy. No one ever promised us an easy life.
Talking about that, let's talk about mentorship for a second. You've been such a role model to dozens of brokers. Who's been your mentor?
Well, I think my journey with Ben Kinney is a good example of that. He almost became a sponsor more than a mentor. And what I mean by that is he was so intertwined in my business growth. He was almost like a business partner. We were at a point where he was interviewing my hires, at times. He was almost like a board of directors, if you will, for me. And I remember, so Bellingham, for all of you who aren't from Washington, I'm in Kirkland and he's based in Bellingham, and he's the founder and CEO of Ben Kinney Companies, big real estate investor, Leka. He's a really big investor. And yes. He owns commercial, single family, and he's got a hunger for acquisition right now too, by the way. So anyway, he's got an appetite right now, I should say. So he started coaching me and mentoring me, and I remember we were trying to get something on the books one day, and he goes, you don't have to drive up here. Like, we can do this on the phone. And I just remember saying to him, part of this process is I need to apprentice you. It's really good for me to see you in your office, to see interactions, to see you lead a meeting, say, before we go into a coaching thing. Because I would do that. Sometimes I would say, hey, let me go watch you in your company meeting, and then we'll meet after, right? And it I used to tell him it's really important as part of this process for me to see how you are and then to break it down privately afterwards, right? And it became almost, it turned from a mentorship to almost an apprenticeship. Maybe that's a better word for it. But I've always had mentors in my life, and I do think that some of us are just more inclined to seek out coaches and mentors. I've almost always had a coach, and I've almost always had a coach or a mentor, right? So I might have just been predisposed to that. I have a strong father figure who's also been a mentor, and I don't know the reason. It's been not only a blessing in my life, it's probably one of the top 3 reasons for my success.
I couldn't agree more. Like, I just looking back in my career too, when I first started, I had some really strong mentors. And even to this day, like, I'm coached by David. And if it wasn't for David, I wouldn't do any income on the real estate brokerage side because I just
Yeah.
wouldn't be motivated to do that. So I completely agree. Okay, so I do have a lot of friends that are getting their real estate broker's license now, and there's a lot of research going into, what is the best brokerage for them. So what do you recommend, being in this field, building your own team, like what are some like key factors that they need to look out for?
Yeah, that's a great question because it's a really important decision, right? So, the most important factor in this decision is not the consumer's perception of brand. It just doesn't matter anymore. The most important component in this decision is what brokerage is more set up to train and coach a new agent. Some amazing brokerages we have in this area. We have some really great brokerages. They're not designed for new agents, right? And so you have to look at what's gonna be the best brokerage for a new agent coming in, and how you define that is what their education courses are. Do they have a productivity coaching program? Do they have a proven track record of agents coming in brand new and getting into production, and how quickly, and all of those questions are what you guys should be asking. Don't fear. I see a lot of new agents. We just signed an agent up yesterday in our North Seattle office, and she signed up in January. She's brand new. She's 23, and she signed up to become an agent in January at a very prominent local brand name brokerage. And she was basically abandoned. And it's not that it's a bad brokerage at all. It just wasn't the right place for a new agent, right? So that's the most important thing. And then once you choose the brand you think is right, you don't always need to sign up for the office closest to your house. It's the people. If you really click with a team leader or branch manager or productivity coach that you might have to drive by, like in our case, we're Keller Williams, you might have to drive by one Keller Williams to come to the right one, right? Don't fear that. That's okay to do, so.
Especially now with Zoom and telecommunication, then, the world is oyster, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So tell us about, like, I could have a conversation with you all day long. Tell us about all the exciting things you're up to these days.
Yeah. So I do have some exciting things, but I think that, what's relevant to everybody is my new podcast. So I just started a national podcast with 3 of my besties. It's called Empire Building. So you can get it on iTunes or Spotify or wherever you listen. Just type in Empire Building, and we would really appreciate a subscribe and
Awesome.
press that 5-star. But it's Wendy Papasan, Sarah Reynolds, and Seychelle Van Poel and me. And what distinguishes us from maybe other podcasts is we talk about building big empires. All of us have really big empires. Sarah Reynolds has the #1 team in Keller Williams right now. She's on track to do $15 million in gross commission income. She's just a stunningly successful team. But the big thing is we also talk about having a big life. Because what is all this here for if we're just building big businesses, right? The other thing, Leka, is, we all have a huge belief in taking this awesome income we're earning and buying assets, right? And so all of us are investors. I'm on the new side of it. Everyone's kind of in their own level of it. Seychelle and her husband are super into, they do fix and flips. They do holds. I mean, they're a little bit more involved like you. They're a little bit more like you. Wendy and Jay are more like, they kind of buy a door every couple of years and they hold it forever. Sarah and I are just kind of a little bit on the beginning side of it. Sarah just bought her first commercial building. So we're all
Wow.
really big believers in taking income and taking as much of it as you can and buying assets.
That makes me so happy.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So for those of you that don't know, Via and Ashley, both my speakers today, have both been on multiple webinars, have recorded podcasts, and they both just got done to be on this one. So thank you
Yeah.
for joining us. So we'll come back to you in a second, Via. We'll go to Ashley for a few minutes.
Perfect.
But in the meantime, if you guys have any questions for Via, please feel free to type it in the chat box. Via, if you could share your podcast link on the chat box, and that would be great. People, and I highly encourage you guys to go and subscribe to the webinar and to the podcast. I'm going to start Ashley's video. Hi, Ash.
Hi. That was pretty inspirational. I really appreciate how honest Via is in just telling your story, and the onus that you just took on in terms of when your team left. That's the name of the game here, is learning from your mistakes and then moving forward and not sulking and relishing in, just self-pity kind of, like we make mistakes all the time on all different scales. And at the end of the day, it's the people who learn from their mistakes and move forward that are most successful in life. So kudos to you, Vija.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Like every time you see her in the office or
Thank you.
her out and about doing something, like she is just 100% Via. Like what you see is what you get, which is what I was so attracted to when I first met her.
That's amazing.
Thank you, ladies.
Of course. Hey, Ash.
Hey.
So, Ashley's journey has been just so exciting, and I wanted to share her with my network because I want everyone to see all the amazing things you've been doing. So tell me, what was your introduction to real estate 10 years ago?
Sure. So I have a little bit of a unique story in the sense that both my husband and I really did quite well very early on in our careers. My husband was a professional ice hockey player, and then I worked in clinical research and development for major pharmaceutical companies like GlaxoSmithKline, Wyeth, and Sanofi Aventis. So because of both of our professions being high-paying professions right out the gate, we wanted to put our money in something that we knew would be a good lifelong investment. And that kept circling back to real estate. So we got introduced to Bigger Pockets when Bigger Pockets first started. We've been listening to Bigger Pockets now, I think, for about 12 years or so. And I think they've been in existence for like 13 or something, like close to the amount of time we've been listening to it. And we just learned along the way. So we spent a lot of time educating ourselves and not really taking a lot of action on the real estate front. We did a little bit. We've house hacked our entire relationship up until about a month ago when my brother and his wife moved out of our house because we rented the whole basement downstairs. We have an in-law suite, so to speak, in our basement. But ultimately, what we were able to accomplish through real estate was giving my husband the freedom of decision to leave his career on his own terms. He, as I mentioned, was a professional hockey player, and professional hockey players have, on average, a career of 4 years. He was fortunate enough to play for 11 years, and he could have continued playing. He had a lot of job opportunities going into his 12th season, but we had really built up our real estate business at that time, and it gave him the opportunity to leave his career on his own terms as opposed to being injury stricken or teams just not wanting him anymore. And I think that was a gift in itself that real estate has given us, that I don't think we really understand the value that it gave to my husband. And just overall to our marriage and relationship, that he didn't have resentment to have to give up on something, that he spent his entire life, like as a little kid, wanting to do. And then in terms for me, I have known since I was a very young kid that I wanted to live my life on my own terms. I did not want to work for someone ever. So even in pharmaceuticals, my whole goal getting into pharmaceuticals was to get to the top as fast as I possibly could, because I just wanted to be my own boss. I saw how my father, who was self-employed as a general contractor, was able to make his own schedule, make his own hours. And my mom, no worries, my mom also worked for a company that allowed her a very flexible schedule too. And collectively, the two of them supported my brother and myself through all of our sports and extracurricular activities throughout our life. And I wanted to be able to provide that same support to my children. So I felt that real estate was the best vehicle in which I could do that and achieve those goals. That has been my goal all along, is to be able to be there for my family. And that's really how we got started. And then it's just kind of snowballed from there. And to Via's point, you know, if you work really hard and you have a lot of grit and you have commitment, I think she mentioned that term. If you commit to something, it's amazing how much you can achieve in such a short period of time. It may sound like a long period of time if you aren't initially involved, but even if you look back in your life 5 years ago, you'll probably have certain situations where you say to yourself, that feels like yesterday. That's how I feel about my entire real estate career, even 10 years ago.
That's amazing. So much to learn from you, Ash.
Likewise.
You know, so you do two kinds of investing. You do fix and flip and you do apartment investing.
Correct.
For most people, you are a real estate investor, but I know how different those two things are. So how do you manage these two businesses? Because they're completely different.
So we started on the flipping side, and just the way my mind works, I'm a person that I like to learn every single detail so that way I can automate it and put systems in place to replace myself. And that's just the way I work on throughout my entire life. That's, you know, how I operate and how I think. And even when I worked in clinical research and development and pharmaceutical companies, I would learn different processes. And then I would say, well, why don't we create this system and this could replace X, Y, and Z, and we could use this to execute, you know, whatever we needed to do. And it was much more efficient. I love looking for efficiencies. So when I partnered with my father on the high-end flipping business, we did a project and I wanted to learn every single step of the process. And just to put it in terms of what we were able to accomplish, our first project took 9.5 months. And then a year to date from our first project, we did a similar project, a little bit larger scope, and it took us 9.5 weeks. So that's kind of the difference in terms of how I look at things and how, you know, I structure things so that you really put the groundwork down first before you actually start working on a project. So what I mean by that is I put all of the systems and plan in place before we even have the keys to the property. And that's something I didn't realize on my first property. So that's why I think, you know, it took us 9.5 months to accomplish the first property. And that's not a sustainable business model. Ultimately, what is the best way to operate any business is to do things at a faster rate. So you're decreasing the time out on capital you have that you're using to invest, whether it's your personal capital or you're leveraging someone else's capital. The cost of capital is really what determines someone's success in business. The cheaper you can get that cost of capital, which is either the rate at which you're getting it or how long you have it out for, impacts that ultimate price. So you need to make sure that you have that in consideration when you're trying to identify efficiencies. That's and then, awesome. Sorry, back to your original question is once we learned how to do that, then simultaneously I was learning about multifamily, and then I transitioned over to multifamily because single family, we had already set it up as a well-oiled machine.
Got it. Tell us a little bit, tell the audience a little bit about the kind of apartments you're looking for and how big these are, which states you're looking in.
Correct. So for the multifamily side, we're looking at typically properties that are around 150 units or more. And we like landlord friendly states. So Texas is one state that we're very hot and heavy on. We love Texas. It is a landlord friendly state. And there's a lot of other components of Texas that we really like in terms of migration path, where people are migrating to. Most people are moving to Texas and southern states. So there's just a lot of different factors that we like. And then within Texas, there are certain markets we like as well. We like Columbus, Ohio. Once again, if you look at migration, there's not a lot of migration coming into the state of Ohio, but there's a lot of migration within Ohio going to Columbus. So we're very specific on that market. We like the Carolinas. That's also another landlord friendly state, but we have a bunch of different indicators that we use to measure whether or not a property is a good investment. In terms of our current situation with COVID and a recession resistance, I have my own model of measuring a city's resistance to a recession, and I use that as an indicator on whether or not we should go into that market. That ties very heavily into the economy. So the diversification within that economy, the more diverse the economy is in a specific market, it tends to be more recession resistant. Also too, in terms of having entertainment not be one of the top 3 market drivers for the economy, that's another parallel that I've seen in terms of recession resistance that a market could have.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, do you want to show us some of the work that you've done?
Sure, absolutely. I would love to.
We'd love to see some befores and afters of your flips and some apartments you guys are investing in.
Sure. Do you mind just enabling the sharing?
Sure, I can do that. All right.
Okay. Let me know if you can see.
Yep. Can see great.
Okay. For some reason, it's freezing on the present. I don't know if I'm not able to or not.
Okay.
Hold on, let me see.
This is where my love-hate relationship for technology comes in.
I am so sorry too. I don't know.
Not your fault.
I'm trying to present. Let me try to reshare. Maybe that will work. I apologize for that.
Not a problem.
I'm just going to share my entire screen and see if I can try it that way instead.
Sounds good. Neat things it's your Chrome browser.
That's what the problem is?
Probably.
Yeah, it's not. I thought if I shared my entire screen. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. Totally fine. We'll come back to it if it starts to work.
Okay. I can also perhaps I can share it with you and you might be able to pull it up on your screen too. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, we can try that too. Yeah, just go ahead and email it to me and I'll pull it up.
Oh, actually, you know what? It might be working now.
Awesome.
Let me see if I can just get this down. And okay, let me try to share one more time and see. Sure. I think it's just because it's so big. with all the images.
There we go. I see it.
Okay, let me see if I can just bring it back to the title slide. Okay, can you see it now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. So I just wanted to say, if you wanted to follow or see more examples of the work, my flipping company is How's It Look? And then my personal account on Instagram is Badash Investor. So you can see more images there of the work, but these are just a few examples of the work that we have done. So this is a property that we did that needed a full stucco remediation on the exterior. So I don't know how closely you can see this, but we decided to use hardy plank. The stone was intact and it didn't have high water readings, moisture readings when we did the inspection. So we were able to keep all of the stone work, but the stucco needed to be remediated. So we decided to go with a hardy plank on this one. This property was 5,400 square feet. It had 6 bedrooms and 5.5 bathrooms. So it had quite an extensive amount of tile work that needed to be done. But other than that, it was pretty much a cosmetic renovation. The after picture here, this is on one of the master bedrooms, master baths. There's 2 master bedrooms and master baths. This was prior to us installing the glass here. Unfortunately, I don't have a picture of after the glass was installed, but we do complete everything so that someone can literally move into the property and have nothing to update. This is more a property that we tend to do. So that one that I just showed was an early 2000 construction. We are located in the suburbs of Philadelphia, and there are a lot of historic homes in our area. They're typically early 1900 to 1920 are the homes that we specialize in. This is a home from the 1920s. It's a Tudor style house. We tore off this addition here and rebuilt a 2-story addition. Actually, that's really 3-story addition for this property because there is a 3rd story on this house. This house here needed a full mold remediation. It's another full gut rehab. We also specialize in full gut rehab. So early 1900s homes, full gut rehabs are where we are most advantageous in our market, and then higher end homes, because flippers in our market tend to go for the lower price point homes. So you can see here, this was the existing dining room, and then there was a wall separating the dining room and kitchen. We tore out this wall to open up the dining room and kitchen in one eat-in area. And then if you can see in here, this is the living room, and we removed this wall here to have a more grand entrance, because this is the entranceway, so that you flow right into the living room, or it could come into the kitchen.
That is beautiful, Ash.
Thank you so much.
And I can see the amount of work that went into that.
There's a lot of work that goes into these projects. They typically take anywhere between 2 to 3 months, depending on the scope of the renovation. So that's what we target. This house here was primarily a cosmetic. I would say it was in between. This is a home that was built in the 1980s, so not normally in our main wheelhouse, but still, we did this. This is just to speak to when we design homes, what we're doing is we're designing it for a specific buyer. There are arguments to be made that you want to design to attract the most amount of buyers, and then there's an argument that you want to design for a specific type of buyer. Well, if you attract the most amount of buyers, you could get a lot of offers and hopefully drive up the price. Our goal is to design to a specific buyer, so they are so committed to the house and they're so in love with the house that they'll pay at whatever cost very early on, because they're fearful of the property going to someone else. So we like to do very custom work. So for example, this tile backsplash, I don't know if you can see it in here, but this tile is all different types of tile, all the same color to provide texture. And then we did a live edge wood piece. So there are ways that we could obviously do a cheaper rehab budget. All of our rehab budgets are 6 figures or more. So we tend to do things that are maybe a little bit above and beyond. But the idea is that we also have built a very strong reputation in our area. A lot of realtors contact us constantly looking for homes for their buyers because of the reputation we've built. And on the flip side, no pun intended, when they get a property that they know, is a hard property to sell, they call us first to get us to come in and look at the property. So here's another, this is actually from the same house. So this is a laundry room that we created an actual room. So we put these behind cabinets and then did a mudroom area because this is right off the garage. We've tiled this area. Originally it was carpet. I know it's hard to see. These pictures are, lighting is everything. So, and then once again, this is the kitchen, and this was a really small kitchen that we opened up to do this double width island. So we add extra storage. We're always thinking about form and function as opposed to just form. So this provides extra storage for someone. This here is a wine bottle, obviously display that goes right into the dining room. So from the dining room, you can view in here. So the idea is from every angle that you look at this kitchen and at the island, has interest to it. And that's really important to us. This house here, just Leka wanted me to share some numbers. This is our only project to date where we lost money. I think that's important for everyone to realize. Over 90% of flips are done by first-time flippers, and the majority of them, it's around 90% as well, are losses. And most people only make around $5,000 a flip. So flipping can be very risky, but once you get really good at it, it can be very lucrative as well. It just all kind of depends on a lot of things. It depends on your experience. It depends on the market that you're in. It also depends on the market cycle that you're in as well. So to provide some numbers here, just, to be honest and taking a page out of Vija book on honesty and showing both the wins and the losses. This house was purchased for $430,000. We sold it for $645,000. Our holding costs were $95,000, or excuse me, fixed costs. So that's inclusive of purchase costs, holding costs, and sales costs. And our renovation was $140,000. We were a little off in all aspects. We were a little off on the sale price. We were a little off on the holding period, which holding really eats up your profit. And then we were a little bit off on the renovation. So ultimately we ended with almost a $20,000 loss on this property. So that was a little tough. This is a project we actually have under contract right now. It was rented to a family, and the family moved out, and the owner didn't know about winterizing the property, so all the pipes burst. So this is how we got the property. This isn't us demoing the property. This is how the property looked when we got the property. So we had to make sure that the people that they had come in to repair all the water lines and do mold remediation and everything did it to our standards, because our name would ultimately be behind this property. So this is the kitchen now. And then this is the master bath that we did. This is just another house that we did about 4 years ago. And this is a small gallery kitchen, and we opened it up so we could have a little bit more inviting kitchen and usable space within the house. This is another house we did, just showing a little bit more style. We put a granite slab in the master bath as almost like an art piece in the shower. And then one more set of numbers here. This is a house that we got for $315,000. We sold it for $742,000. Our holding costs, our fixed costs were $77,000. Our renovation was $235,000. So we ended up with approximately $115,000 in profit. All of the numbers that I give do not include commission, realtor fee commission. My husband serves as our realtor, but to me, those are two separate businesses. So I do not count the profits made through realtor transactions as part of the profit of the business, because we treat them as two separate businesses. Some people don't do it that way, but that's just my own personal preference. And then here's a apartment building that I have in Amarillo, Texas. It's 225 units. On the exterior, we just updated the color. We did some other things too that you can't see in this picture. We repaved the driveway, which at this time the picture was taken, it wasn't completed at the time. And then on the interior, we did new vinyl rollout, new appliance packages, new handles, two-tone paints, new plumbing fixtures, and lighting fixtures. So if you want to see more, because I know we're short on time here, you can see more at How's It Look and Badass Investor.
Hey, Ash, we have a couple questions for you.
Yes.
What type of costs are fixed costs?
Fixed costs are inclusive of the purchase cost. So typically in our area, they're around 3%. So it's 2% on, well, I should say it's 3% for us personally, because it's 1% origination on the money that we're using to do the projects, on the loan that we're getting to purchase the project, and then 2% on our title and transaction fees, escrow fees, etc. So that's all 3% on the purchase cost. Then there's holding costs, which is inclusive of all of your utilities, insurance, cost of capital if you're taking a loan from someone else, insurance, landscaping, anything that accounts for that is variable based off of the time in which you hold a project. And then there's the selling costs, and selling costs are encompassing of the realtor fees. For me personally, I also include anything in terms of seller's assist in that too. So I build in just in case we need to provide seller's assist. So those three things together equate to and total out what's called fixed costs.
Awesome. We do have a couple more questions. How do you finance your projects?
Great question. There's a lot of different ways you can finance projects. So there is hard money, private money. So hard money is you're paying a pretty high fee. So you're paying a high interest rate, and you're also paying origination fees typically. So that can be anywhere from 1 to 5 points origination. And that is a percentage based off of the purchase price. And then there's an interest based off of the money that you lend. You get lent. So that could be encompassing of the purchase price. It could be encompassing of the purchase and the rehab. It could be just of the rehab. Financing is great because you can be really creative about it. You can also do private money, partner with a private money lender. You can do seller financing, which means that the seller acts as the bank and you make your mortgage payments to the seller. We partner with a bank now. We were originally using our own capital for the smaller projects we were doing. And then as we got into the larger projects, we didn't want to tie our money up into these projects. We wanted to diversify. So we leverage bank financing. Anyone who wants to go to a bank, that is the cheapest cost of capital you'll be able to get, most likely. And the best way to secure that capital is through partnering with smaller banks. So you approach smaller banks, you need a track record typically to establish a relationship with a smaller bank, and then you'll be able to use that as another way in which to fund your projects.
That's awesome. So much great. There's so many knowledge bombs here. Thank you, Ash.
You're welcome. No problem.
So I know that it's 2 p.m. now, and I still have a little surprise for you guys. So why don't we do that, and then just continue to post your questions for Vija and Ashley, and then if we have time, we'll take those in the end. And if not, Ashley and Vija, could you also type in your best email for us so that our attendees can reach out to you if they have any questions? That'd be great. So just go ahead and put it in the chat box.
All right, I'm doing that right now.
Awesome.
Sorry.
All right.
Thank you so much, Leka, for having me on. I really appreciate it.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for taking the time to do this. Okay, you guys. So quick little surprise here. So in business, if you look good, you feel good. You feel good, you play good. And if you play good, they pay good. And thanks to the quarantine, I've learned to work out from home, and it's been a total game changer. It's been just, I was like, wow, I didn't need to go to the gym all these years. Like, why did I put it off? So I'd like to introduce you to my good friend, Joe Bauer, who's been in the real estate investing space since 2008. He started flipping short sales, and then since then he's owned rentals, wholesale properties, co-hosts the Seattle Investors podcast with Julie Clark. But his passion for health and fitness has earned him 2 Ironman triathlons, 10 ultra marathons, and he now lives in a van, traveling across the country. But here's the kicker. He has been ranked in the top 2% fittest CrossFit men in the world. So I am really excited to share him with you guys. And he also has started the Get Better project, which I highly encourage you guys to go follow. And Joe, take it away.
Awesome. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Sweet. All right, guys. As you can see, I'm outside right now, so please bear with me. Is it okay if cars drive by, chickens maybe, making noise in the background? So if that's okay, virtually give me a high five or a hand up in the air. So I hope that that is cool with you. I'm going to share some simple things that you can do at home or from a van or from a porch that will be beneficial for you in your everyday life, that will help you to think better, feel better, and perhaps even live longer. So if that's cool, give me a virtual thumbs up. All right, guys, starting off with a story, if that's okay. So if you can see my van back there, about 2 years ago, Emily and I moved into that van. And before that, we were very into fitness. We were going to the gym all the time. We weren't really sure what was going to happen when we moved into 80 square feet of space. So we had to get outside of our comfort zone a little bit. We had to do things that were not as normal for us by like going to the gym. We had to sometimes work out in a van, 80 square feet, like I said, without having any equipment, when it was 20 degrees outside with no space. So I'm going to share with you some of these things that you can do in your living room, in your kitchen, in your bedroom, whatever it may be that you have available to yourself right now, because a lot of us are stuck at home or not wanting to go back to our gyms, and that's completely okay. I've learned over the last 2 years that it doesn't take a lot of stuff, a lot of equipment to get really great results for yourself. And I'm going to share a couple of those things with you today in the 10 or so minutes that we have here. Before I get into that, if you guys have any follow-up questions, you can always hit me up at joe@thegetbetterproject.com. I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys may have. So first thing, fun facts about fitness and why you may want to take this seriously or, look into this a little bit more. Fitness has been shown, or exercise has been shown, to actually help to make you look younger. And you can interpret that any way that you might want to. Make you look younger, make you look sexier, make you just feel better and glow more. However you interpret that for yourself. It can help improve mental focus. So a lot of you guys, I bet, on this podcast, on this webinar, been doing too many podcasts lately, are probably hard chargers, and you want to be able to analyze things quickly. You want to be able to make more money. Well, exercise can help your brain to actually function better so that you can do more, you can get more done faster. I don't know about you, but that sounds awesome to me, and that's one of the main reasons why I partake in exercise regularly. It can help you to actually live longer, and there's been studies, I'm not sure if you guys have heard much about the studies that have been done on telomeres, or however you would like to say that, but it's been shown that if you do as little as 10 minutes of high intensity exercise just a few times per week, you are 10 years biologically younger than those that do not do exercise. So if that's not awesome in and of itself, I don't know what is. The last thing that I wanted to mention as a fun fact is that exercise is great at any age. My mother, if you guys haven't seen my mother all over social media, I share her like crazy because she's so awesome. She's 67 and she is crushing it. She looks fantastic. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, I'm going to post a picture up on the Get Better Project Instagram here, I think in the next day or two, of us all working out together just side by side. And she you wouldn't think she was 67 at all. So you can do it at any age. It just might look a little bit different. You might be modifying things one way or another, and any time. So another thing that people will ask me is there a best time to work out? Not really. It's mostly when you will do it. And now if we wanted to get really super ninja scientific about it, and you're doing like Ironmans, you know, like all day working out, we could really get into nitty gritty about energy systems. But in general, it doesn't matter. Work out in the morning, work out in lunchtime, work out in the evening. It doesn't matter. It's whatever works best for you. And like I mentioned, it is really important to know that, especially when I'm talking with people that are accomplishing a lot in their lives, that you don't need to put in a lot of time for your exercise. Okay, like I said, about 10 minutes a day. A lot of the programming that I do is going to be 10 to 30 minutes, and those are what the workouts that I do. For example, today I did a 7-minute workout. I warmed up, and the workout in and of itself was only 7 minutes. And the key thing is being a higher intensity workout for you. And that's not for me, that's for you. So we're going to go into a few things here that you can put into your daily life right now that will help you to move forward, help you to get some of these benefits that I've been talking about. The first thing, as far as biggest bang for your buck, because we're all about utilizing our time as best as we can. And I know I've been talking about exercise, but this is something that it's kind of incorporated in the same breath, if you will, and that's water. So I think of these things all coming together, and water is one big thing that about 95% of the people that I work with, after working with thousands of people on exercise, fitness, nutrition, are not drinking enough water. And here's why you need to be drinking enough water if you guys want to be top performers. Water can actually increase energy for you, mentally and physically, because when you're drinking water, it delivers oxygen to your cells. And oxygen is our main source of energy. We usually think of like food or caffeine or whatnot, but oxygen, the breathing, it delivers oxygen to our body, and water can help distribute that throughout our body, make us feel better mentally and physically. The stress, so a lot of us are feeling a lot of stress right now. Water, drinking in the right amount of water has been shown to actually decrease your stress. It can make your skin look better, and it can help you burn more body fat. So if you're not drinking enough water, here's how much you should be drinking. Really easy math on this. You take what your ideal body weight would be. So that could be that, you know, you weigh 150 pounds, and that's your ideal body weight. You're at that. You don't want to lose any body fat or gain any muscle or anything like that. You take your ideal body weight and you just cut that in half. So if you weigh 150 pounds, you're just going to shoot for 75 ounces of water a day. The other tip that I would like to give you about water is we're so visual, and we're going to take cues from things in our environment. So if you can have your water bottle next to you as often as possible, you're going to drink more water. This is even true for me. If I have my water bottle across the room, I will find that I don't drink enough water. But if it's sitting right next to me on the, you know, the coffee table, the kitchen table, which is serving as my office right now, I'm going to drink way more water. So just have a water bottle with you as often as possible. And the other flip side of that is try to avoid those things that are not water in your line of sight. So like sodas or juices or things like that you don't get to count as that water consumption. The second thing is exercise is like marketing. So those of you that are in real estate, exercise is like marketing. You want to do it often, and you don't necessarily have to do a whole bunch of it to get a great result. It just has to be consistent and often. Like I said, about 10 minutes a day, just a few times per week. I tell people to start off with 3 to 4 times per week, 10 minutes at a time. And the last thing on that exercise note is that it should mimic life movement. So there's no reason why the exercise that you're doing are not making you badass at life in and of itself. We already talked about how it's going to make you think better, which is going to make you produce more in your daily life, you know, do more deals, that type of thing. Awesome stuff, right? So we want to focus on those life movements like sitting down, standing up, pushing ourselves up out of bed, getting up off of the ground, walking around. Those types of things are going to be the most beneficial, and they're going to give you the most bang for your buck. So like I told you early on, I'm going to leave you with 3 things that you can do right now. And the reason I'm going to give you these 3 things is because I've noticed that people are going to get long-term better results if they do a little bit every single day. We build up those habits. We all know about habits. We've heard about habits. Habits are fantastic for us. So let's create some habits with exercise. And I do this every single day within my group because it puts so much momentum into our lives. Okay, so the first thing, and this is what you guys can do, you can take notes on this or you can contact me afterwards. The first thing I want you to do is we're gonna have a 3-day daily challenge for you. So for the next month, day 1, I want you to try and do 30 air squats or 30 sit to stands, okay? An air squat, if you can still hear me, hopefully, as I'm standing back here, is just simply squatting yourself down and standing back up. There are some things that you want to focus on as you're doing this. And right, you can do this absolutely anywhere, just standing up at your desk. And I recommend doing it after you've worked out or worked for a few hours of the day and you're starting to feel like you slow down, get that blood flowing. So you're going to just put your weight on your heels. You're going to put your toes slightly externally rotated. You're going to start off by pushing your hips back like you're going to sit down into something. And you're going to go down and then press back up through your heels, keeping your chest flat. You can do this onto your chair as well. So you're just going to sit down and stand up. And this could be at any height. It's not really going to be that important. Then what I mentioned as far as intensity goes, it could be just hard for you to do 30 sit to stands right now. And that's 100% fine. You want to start where you're at. If you want to increase the intensity, though, what you could do is you could try and do it faster. You could try and do a few more reps. You could try and do multiple sets per day. It is all about you and all about tricking your body into doing just a little bit more on a regular basis in order to increase that intensity. Day 2 is 20 push-ups, okay? Push-ups can be on your knees or on your toes, so I don't want you to get like worried about, oh my gosh, I can't do any push-ups. Push-ups can be as simple as laying on the ground here, on your knees, and going down and up. Okay, so super simple stuff. What I'm gonna ask you to do or to pay attention to is where your shoulders are, because as I'm going down, this is about what it's gonna look like if you were to look up at me from the ground there. My elbows and my shoulders they're gonna be halfway in between at my sides and up in my shoulders here. This can cause impingements, and this is just not gonna be as effective for producing as much muscle activation as we want. So you're gonna be about right here, halfway in between, and your shoulders are gonna be down. This is going to engage the lat muscles. It's going to work far more musculature, like I mentioned earlier. The last thing, or the day 3, is going to be a plank. So a plank on the elbows is just simple as here. You're going to hold yourself there for 1 minute. It could be multiple sets. It could be all in one set. It doesn't really matter. The reason that we're going to be doing the plank is because not only is a static movement the best thing for your abs, crunches and all that stuff that people have told you about, not the best thing. Static movements based off of the measuring the electricity of your abdominals. So we're going to do that. And also, if you're good at contracting your abs, you're going to be much safer if you guys are worried about hurting your back, picking up things, picking up children, picking up whatever it may be off of the ground. So we've got day 1, 30 air squats, day 2, 20 push-ups, day 3, 1 minute of planks. And we're going to be working all of those muscles to make us badass at everyday life. So if you guys have any questions about that at all, hit me up. I really appreciate Leka having me on the webinar today. I think it's awesome what all of you ladies are doing, and I feel humbled to be on here with you. So thank you so much. If you have any questions, let me know.
Joe, that was incredible. You are changing our lives. I feel like we need to have a webinar dedicated to you, like just you.
Anytime.
Yeah, I mean, that was, hang on, sorry. That was incredible. Thank you so much. So your email is joe@getbetterproject.com?
The Get Better Project. So
The Get Better Project. Okay. So I'm going to type that in here so people can get in touch with you. But I so appreciate you taking the time to come on here and educate us. It's incredible. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
I know we've gone way past our time, but I want to thank Vija and Ashley and all of you for being here and joining us. And I'll send you information on our next webinar, but this has been incredible. So thank you guys. And here's Joe's, the right email, The Get Better Project. Awesome. Thank you guys. Bye, Joe.